Welcome to This Explainer. Go ahead and turn on your faucet right now. Fill up a glass and hold it up to the light. It looks completely pristine, right? But for a reef tank, that crystal clarity, it is a total dangerous illusion. Today, we are exposing the slow-acting, completely invisible threat that is likely hiding right there in your municipal water supply. Okay, let's dive into this, because this is honestly the million-dollar question for so many of us in the hobby. Is your tap water actually hurting your reef? Look, when you're first starting out, dragging buckets of water straight from the kitchen sink is incredibly convenient. We all just naturally assume that, hey, if this water is safe enough for me to drink, it's gotta be fine for my corals, right? But as we're about to see, relying on the iron stomach of a human being to set the standard for a delicate, enclosed reef is a massive and easily avoidable mistake. To really wrap our heads around the problem, you have to realize that clean drinking water and reef-ready water are two totally different standards. I mean, they're not even in the same ballpark. Human drinking water is treated for big, adaptable bodies, but a closed seawater ecosystem, that requires incredibly tight, highly controlled chemistry. What your body just shrugs off as a harmless trace mineral can completely throw a fragile reef out of equilibrium. So what is exactly lurking in that clear glass of tap water? Well, first off, you've got dissolved minerals that will totally alter your ion balance. Second, heavy metals. They're hard to detect, but they are definitely in there. Third, you've got aggressive chemicals like chlorine and chloramine, stuff added by your city that will literally nuke your tank's beneficial bacteria. And the ultimate wild card here, variable municipal treatments. Your city's water practices can literally change overnight, totally pulling the rug out from under your tank's stability without any warning whatsoever. To actually get a read on this hidden threat, we rely on a really crucial metric, TDS, or total dissolved solids. This is basically the combined total of all those invisible substances floating around in your water. Why should you care about this three-letter acronym? Because in a reef tank, even tiny, seemingly insignificant swings in TDS silently wreak havoc. They stress out your corals, they stunt their growth, and worst of all, they dump absolute rocket fuel on frustrating algae problems. I like to think of it as the mystery load. Every single time you mix a new batch of salt water, or you top off your tank for evaporation using untreated tap water, you are flying totally blind. You are dumping an unpredictable, complete mystery load right into your carefully curated ecosystem. You might as well just be rolling the dice with your water parameters because you simply do not know what's coming out of your pipes on any given Tuesday. Now, what's really interesting here is mapping out the exact consequences of this mystery load on your target parameters. Reef aquariums absolutely demand predictable inputs. Think about your salinity. When the tap water's ionic profile clashes with that expensive, high-quality salt mix you bought, you get ionic drift. Your alkalinity and calcium completely skewed by random mineral influences. And trace elements, even tiny inconsistencies make long-term stability impossible. You basically end up fighting a losing battle against your own source water. And that brings us to a super frustrating reality of reef keeping. Because these contaminants are usually entering your system at fairly low concentrations, you generally don't wake up to a sudden dramatic tank crash. Instead, this continuous, low-level exposure acts a lot more like a slow poison. It leads to chronic stress. Your corals just kind of don't look right, the polyps won't extend, growth just inexplicably halts. It is a slow, agonizing decline, and it's incredibly hard to diagnose because the actual threat is entirely invisible. Which leads us right into a massive danger zone involving your most mundane, everyday chore, the evaporation top-off. We really need to talk about a concept called perimeter stacking. See, when water evaporates from your tank, only pure H2O leaves. All those impurities from your tap water, they stay right there in the tank. So when you top off with more tap water, you are literally stacking new impurities right on top of the old ones. Over weeks, this meaningfully and dangerously alters your entire chemistry. And you can really see how this danger rapidly escalates. Just picture the massive jump in impurities from week 1 to week 3. This isn't just a static problem that sits there, it actively gets worse with every single top-off you do. And if you have high evaporation rates, or say you're running a smaller nanotank, these elements stack up even faster. You are basically taking the city's impurities and condensing them directly into a glass box in your living room. So, the crucial point is, how do we stop treating our top-off water like a dangerous game of roulette? Well, we create a consistent baseline. We absolutely have to completely remove the source water variables from the equation entirely. We have to strip that tap water down to absolute zero before a single drop of it ever touches your aquarium. And the ultimate gold standard tool for this in our hobby is an RO/DI filtration system. Here's exactly how this absolute lifesaver of a technology works, and it happens in two distinct stages. Step 1 is reverse osmosis, or RO. This aggressively pushes your tap water through a membrane, stripping out the vast majority of those dissolved solids. But we don't stop there. Step 2 is deionization, or polishing. This final stage acts kind of like a magnet, pulling away any stubborn remaining ions. The final result? Truly pure water. And now, your precise dosing and supplementation routine is finally the actual driver of your tank's chemistry. There's a really powerful saying from the source material that you should keep in mind here. In reef keeping, consistency is often the difference between things seem fine and true resilience. Because honestly, just surviving isn't thriving. Just because your tank seems fine today absolutely doesn't mean it can handle a sudden unannounced municipal treatment change tomorrow. True control means proactively eliminating those unpredictable variables before they ever have a chance to enter your system. So let's make this actionable. Here is your clear roadmap to building real resilience. First, go get a cheap meter and test your top water for TDS to figure out what your baseline mystery load actually is. Second, check with your local water authority to see if they use chlorine or chloramine, because that's going to dictate the specific carbon blocks you'll need. And third, pick an RODI system sized for your tank's weekly demand. Automate that pure water supply and you will never have to guess again. That brings us to our final thought for this explainer, and a question I really want you to ask yourself every single time you look at your tank. Are you managing your reef, or are you just reacting to the chemistry of your municipal supply? By upgrading to RO/DI water, you permanently stop fighting these invisible, compounding battles. Take permanent control of your baseline chemistry and watch your reef absolutely thrive. Thanks so much for joining me, and happy reefing!